But here's what the very trusted source, known as Dan Rafael, has reported. Earlier today, he reported that the top 5 fights on the card will be as follows. Main event, Daniel Dubois, Joseph Parker. IBF heavyweight title fight. It's big. And we're going to talk about all of these. Co-main event, if you want to call it that, certainly not chief support level. This is above chief support. And co-main event, if you ask me, co-headliner, if you will. Artur Beterbiev against Dmitry Bivol, number 2, rematch of the great fight that happened on October 12th. Boots Ennis against Virgil Ortiz. Incredible. Talk about that. Hamza Shiraz against Carlos Adames. And, of course, Jean Caballel, which is a massive, massive fight and an important fight in the heavyweight division. That's just 5. There are others that are being discussed. When you saw this come through the wire, as they say in the news business, your reaction?
I said immediately, it's the greatest fight card I've ever seen in my life. Let's go as big as we can possibly go. That's the best fight card ever. Everyone likes to kind of talk about the Don King times. I'm not that old. I don't remember the Don King times in the early 80s, which were stacked cards, but nothing like this. I mean, you just said an undisputed light heavyweight showdown is going to be on the card. A world title showdown is going to be on the cards. If I'm correct, you also said there's going to be a middleweight title showdown on the cards. And then we get Virgil Ortiz versus Jaron Ennis, which will be one of the best fights at 154 pounds. And then you said Zhang versus Caballel, which is one of the best fights at heavyweight. And there could be more. That is by far one of the best fight cards I've ever seen. It ticks all the boxes in terms of eyeballs from all over the world. I mean, it's incredible. I will have to bring something up with you, though. You made it sound as though Dubois Parker is going to be main event. Yeah, There's no way on this earth Bivol Beterbiev or Beterbiev Bivol is not main event. It's impossible.
Okay,
impossible.
It was literally my next question. The way it's being positioned is as such. At least maybe that's the way they're writing it. But you think there's no chance because in the UFC, for example, they like to always give the highest weight the main event slot. And so I thought maybe they could be going that route. But you would agree because I was literally going to just say Beterbiev versus Bivol is the bigger fight, right? With the bigger stakes attached to it. It has to
Ariel, I would riot if Beterbiev Bivol is not main event. I will pull myself from the card. This is it. I'm saying it now to everyone. I will pull myself from the card if Beterbiev versus Bivol is not the main event. I mean, that fight was so good. It's the 2 best light heavyweights in the world, 2 pound for pounders. I mean, you're talking potentially pound for pound number 3 versus pound for pound number 5 or 6. That's how close it is in the rankings. I don't know where. No, that has to be. It has to be main event. And I know what you mean about the weight classes and all that good stuff, but no. The only fight that could be bigger than Beterbiev Bivol and push that down to chief support would be Tyson Fury versus Alexander Usyk. Nothing else can be made to push that down to chief support or co-main event or whatever title you want to give it. Has to be main event. Has to be.
There's a lot that gives me great joy here. We thought that maybe the IBF would ruin the immediate rematch plan. Sounds like, at least if this report is correct, it sounds like that is not going to be the case. And the one that was really concerning me, and I thought, to be honest, that cooler heads would prevail and that they wouldn't ruin such a great thing. Again, Usyk Fury isn't for undisputed gold, but at least they're running it back. And so in the end, who the hell cares? IBF kind of ruined that. What I was worried about was that Dubois would fight someone else. That's what I was really worried about. It had to be, if Dubois wasn't fighting Joshua, it had to be Joseph Parker. And dare I say, Ade, Joseph Parker versus Dubois at this point in time interests me more than AJ versus Dubois too, if only because I feel like AJ needs more time off. Like I would think that this is too soon for him. If in fact this is true, and I was reaching out to people very close to Joseph, and they were playing a little bit coy, but it does seem, if I am reading the tea leaves correctly, like this is the direction. This guy coming off an incredible, 2024, he's on quite the run, a rejuvenation, a resurgence of his career in many respects. This to me actually excites me more so in many respects than them running back Beterbiev Bivol, because I was losing hope that they were going to do the right thing for Joseph Parker.
Yeah, look, so happy for Joseph Parker. Like, again, Joseph Parker is one of the good guys of the sport, a great guy who's on a great run, as you said. I mean, let's not forget, this guy beat Zhang and he beat Deontay Wilder. I mean, let's give him something. And he's getting something. And you mentioned him being on a resurgence. It's very similar to what Daniel Dubois was on sort of 18 months ago, right? He was on a resurgence, and look where Daniel Dubois is now. This is a dangerous fight. But look, before we give sort of Joseph Parker the plaudits, and we will, let's give Daniel Dubois the plaudits for taking this fight. This is a voluntary. He doesn't have to do this. So his run now would be honestly the craziest run I can remember in the heavyweight division. We're talking Alexander Usyk, Jarrell Miller, Hrgovic, AJ, Parker. That's insane. And if he were to beat Parker, and I think he'll be a slight favorite, just slight, like 55-45. If he were to beat Parker, we need to have a serious conversation about where Daniel Dubois sits, because that's frightening. Honestly, that's a frightening run. But look, kudos to Daniel Dubois. You know, a lot of fighters say, "I'll fight anyone," and now that we are privy to kind of be behind the scenes, we know that's not true. Daniel Dubois is that. He will fight anyone, and I think he's proven it. If what Dan Raphael's reporting is true, if he does fight Parker, then he clearly is a man that has gloves, will fight, because that's a crazy risk for a voluntary, when you really can sit and wait and see what happens with Fury Usyk and fight the winner of that. So for him to do this is you got to applaud the young man.
If you were advising him, if you were his manager, would you tell him to take this fight?
No.
Why not?
No. I'd say sit it out and wait and see. Like, look, as much as he could almost have gone on a rallying cry to get AJ in the ring, and at this stage, AJ is more money and maybe an easier fight at this stage of AJ's career. So it's certainly more money. We can tick that box, and then you can just sit back and just wait until December 21st and see what happens with Fury Usyk. Daniel Dubois could, and I'm not trying to say this would happen, but he could fight for an undisputed belt in a few months. I mean, that all goes out the window, obviously, if he loses to Parker, even if he gets injured by Parker. So it's a risky fight. I mean, he could be in an undisputed fight sometime in the new year. I mean, that all goes away if Parker wipes him out. And Parker, I mean, you know as well as I do, Parker's looking good right now. He's a lot bigger. Parker's nearly 270, 280 pounds. This is a very, very dangerous fight. This is more dangerous, way more dangerous than I think Hrgovic, and more dangerous than AJ. I really do believe it.
Parker's in incredible shape. He's been working with George Lockhart, who's worked with the likes of Tyson Fury, who's worked with the likes of Conor McGregor, among many, many, many others. And he lives with him now. He lives in New Zealand, and you just see him on social media. I mean, he's a freaking rock. He's in an unbelievable amount of got strength and just like, it just seems like he is in the best shape possible. I've said this before, but I got to spend a lot of time with him in London because we were driving back and forth for that card in Wembley, and he told me a lot about what he's been through. And I hope at some point he opens up about this, because I think people will all fall in love with him. Excuse me, even more so than, he's a very nice guy. He's soft spoken. He's very charming. But there's a lot there to the Joseph Parker story, and I agree with you. As much as I love it for Joseph on the other side of the coin, by the time this fight happens, it will be essentially a little over 2 months since Fury Usyk. Like, we could be on the road to Dubois versus the winner of that fight. So it is a massive risk. I presume the money is tremendous. The opportunity to, stay active and be on a card like this is great for him. The question, though, is, for me to you, will the UK finally get behind Daniel Dubois if he wins this fight? If he proves yet again that he can slay another giant and then wins this fight en route to an undisputed fight against the winner of Fury Usyk, we presume the winner will fight him if he wins this fight. Will you guys finally get behind him like you have gone behind Fury and AJ?
The simple answer to that question is probably not like that. And I was going to say yes until you mentioned those two names. This is the problem for Daniel Dubois. He's in an era where you have AJ and Fury. I mean, and they're like football players over here. They're like rock stars. I mean, their following and fan base is nothing we've probably ever seen before in this country. So it's difficult when you're comparing sort of Dubois to those two. Will they get behind him like they got behind a Chisora or a Dillian White or anyone else? Yeah, of course they will. But you're talking AJ Fury here. You're talking 10 years, even more so for AJ, of big fights and growing a fan base and stadium fights and selling out arenas. I mean, Dubois just got to that. So we've got to give him time to grow that fan base. I mean, I think it will get there. And I think people are starting to kind of get behind him. But, I mean, Tyson Fury is a different beast. I mean, and AJ is a different beast as well. It really is. Maybe when those two have gone and they're trying to find the next one. And I think Fury and AJ will be gone in the next 12 to 18 months. Maybe then you can sort of pin all your hopes on Daniel Dubois and everyone can get behind him. But as soon as AJ and Fury are here, and they are still very much here, then it's going to be difficult for the fan base to kind of switch sides, if you like, and start to go behind Dubois. It's just, I don't think it's that easy. We're a small country, Ariel. We don't have that many boxing fans. and the
Nah,
ones that we do. We're a
that's
small country,
nonsense.
Ariel. This isn't
I'm
the
over
US. We're a
there
small
and I'm listening
country.
to you on the radio, and you guys are talking about boxing at lunchtime. We don't do that here in America. You need to get behind one of your guys because he is the one taking the torch from them. The baton is being passed to him. He's the new heavyweight UK king. And
You know what's interesting about that, actually? You actually are right. And I think maybe that's where we're going wrong with him. I do think, like, even though he's had back-to-back really good victories, and even the Usyk performance was a good one, I still think there is this kind of, yeah, but when he fights Bacoli, when he fights Parker, rather than just saying, well, 1 second, he's a world champion now.
yeah,
He's a world champion and he's very good. I still think there are some that are like, yeah, still not quite sure about him. And I think that's the problem. Like, I think if you asked 100 people on the street that watch boxing who wins, Dubois or Bacoli, I think people would sway to Bacoli, you know?
wow.
Yeah, so I think they're not quite sure if Dubois is the finished article yet. They're not quite sure. I mean, did he fight an AJ that's come to the end? Like, you know what I mean? They don't really want to crown him yet. I think if you beat Parker, he'll get the recognition, he'll get crowned. But look, I'm a big fan of Dubois. I think he's great. I think Don Charles is great. And kudos to him for taking this dangerous fight because, again, we don't know if this is confirmed yet, but from what we do know, it is going to be Parker. And I think that's so risky, but so ballsy as well. I love it.